All right, welcome back. In case you're just joining us, Dr. OBADIAH MALIAFA, former Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, is joining me right now. We're looking at the state of the Nigerian economy. Welcome, Dr. MALIAFA, and thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much, Nancy. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Compliments of the season, isn't it?
Oh, thank you. Yes, it is. It is that festive time of year, so it's full of expectations. And wish all our Christian brothers and sisters the very best. Yes.
Do you think there's every cause to celebrate, bearing in mind all that has happened this year and still happening, as it were, a whole lot? 2017 has it's a year where it's a potpourri of a whole lot of things.
Yes.
President Buhari was out most time, in the better part of this year. He was out for a while due to illness, but the president we're seeing right now seems to be that he has overcome the sickness, a lot of things. 2017 budget, the implementation, not as much as we wanted. Quite a whole lot. The economy exited a recession, salaries of workers not being paid, Parry Club refund, so many things. Inflation too on one side, double digit but trending downwards. We had Forex crisis at the time. Now the currency is a bit stable. I can go on and on. What do you think, Doctor? Is it worth celebrating?
Well, actually, Nancy, you see, like this cup of water, some people, an optimist will say it is half full. A pessimist will say, nah, it is half empty. I would rather pitch my lot with the optimists and say this cup is half full. Of course, the whole year has been a mixed grill. There have been blessings, there have been downsides. And I make a point of interest to visit the rural areas, which a lot of people don't. A lot of people in Abuja, Lagos, they don't visit the rural areas. They don't know how the farmers are fending. Life in the rural areas is very tough. For the poor, it is very, very tough. Poverty has increased. Because of the unrest in the rural sectors, many farmers have not been able to go to the farms. The Uncle's Borders program has helped. There's a lot more rice than before. But I can tell you certain staples like guinea corn, millet, and corn are very scarce. Not only because of speculators, because of actually massive falls in production. So it's a mixed grill, but I would say on the whole, we should give thanks. One thing I've learned from people like Oprah Winfrey, on some of her shows, she said that, look, we sometimes forget to show gratitude.
Gratitude, yes. She's the woman of gratitude.
She's the woman of gratitude. And I think in this country, we need to begin to show gratitude. Show gratitude for the mercies we have received, mercies we don't deserve as a country, for some of the good things that have happened, for abundant rain, for living in a country without tsunamis and earthquakes. There are things which can be grateful for, but there are huge challenges. And I'm happy that you mentioned the president. He went through the valley of the shadow of death. He's actually a profile in courage, and his remarkable recovery is something that we are very glad about. Even his opponents have expressed gratitude. Many people in this country, I know that in churches, at least my local church, people have prayed for him earnestly to be well, and he is now back in good form. And we believe that with the strength and the new lease of life that God has given him, he will do even more for the benefit of the people of this country. It is not yet Uhuru. There are huge challenges in this country, and as the army would say, we should all hands must be on deck. We must all be up and doing. It's not just the leadership. All of us as citizens have a duty to do our part to ensure that this country makes it in the Committee of Nations.
Doctor, what do you think has been the greatest challenge for us this 2017? Looking back.
The greatest challenge
economically.
The greatest challenge to me actually has been peace. The greatest challenge has been peace. Without, you see, Nancy, without the foundation of peace, nothing can happen.
Peace, security.
Peace and security. Yeah. Law, peace and security. On this road to Kaduna, where banditry, kidnapping, lawlessness has been the order of the day, people can't travel freely. There's no peace in the right areas. In Newman the other day, hundreds, thousands slaughtered.
And Newman is a sugar belt.
It's a sugar belt of this country.
Yeah. And we've seen because of that security challenge, our sugar projection has been dropped.
Exactly.
Sugar production.
Yes, has been dropped. So to me, the greatest challenge has been that of peace. And I am sorry, we have not done enough for peace.
How do you think that the aspect of security should be handled? Because we've seen Boko Haram since the president came in 2015. We've seen some kind of, we haven't won the war yet.
No.
But quite a whole lot is still happening when it comes to Boko Haram. You talked of kidnapping. Many people are still being kidnapped.
Yes.
Perhaps it's not as the news is not as much as it used to be, but they say if you have someone close to you that is being that gets kidnapped, it makes news. Then the issue of armed robbery.
Yes.
Then the issue that I also want you to comment on is this SARS. I know I want you because it's still part of security.
Yes.
And Nigerians also need to move freely without anger, without fear that they will get harassed by the police people that are supposed to. So these are all security challenges. So I want you to talk on that.
They're a bunch of criminal bandits. I'm sorry. The so-called SARS business. They should be disbanded immediately. Are
you for end SARS or reform SARS?
End it.
End it.
They're a bunch of criminal bandits.
Is that a fair statement for every one of them?
It is very fair. They are a bunch of criminal, murderous bandits.
Don't you have a few SARS men that are still,
Look, my houseboy told me the other day, he lives after Asokoro, and he forgot his ID and he panicked. He said that these SARS will just pick you out on the road, and honestly, if you're lucky, if you're not lucky, they could just simply gun the person down. So that opened my eyes to see that there's a lot of lawlessness going on in this country. It is totally unacceptable in a democracy. Every person must be adjudged innocent until we could prove them guilty. And going about with a gung-ho attitude that you can shoot people just because they are poor walking in the road, it doesn't mean they are armed robbers. Chances are they could also be armed robbers, but put them through the process. In a situation where they can go gung-ho and just pick somebody and just, drive them away and gun them down and throw them away.
And after searching you, there's no gun, they didn't find any gun or knife on you.
They can still shoot.
Yes.
They can still shoot. And that is not acceptable. It brutalizes the poor people of this country. The SARS don't aim at anybody in a jeep. They'll probably salute you and then ask for a few pitons and go away. But with the poor, they can just go gung-ho and, people have been killed. And I say this because I have workers working for me. I've spoken to them, and I know what they go through sometimes. And it is totally unacceptable. So they should be disbanded. We should put in place a very civil anti-crime police service. People who are well-trained in psychology, in criminology, and in law enforcement, who can pick up people, put them through the correct process, and then bring them to judgment if they are guilty. Not to go around the streets and shooting at your pleasure. That is not acceptable. It is not acceptable before the law of humanity. It is not acceptable before the law of God.
How about the area of kidnapping, robberies? Those are some of the security challenges that are also threatening the peace, the herdsmen.
Yes.
Issue still there.
Yeah.
And I was surprised that when the president went to Daura,
yes,
he has his cattle in a ranch.
Exactly. I
was surprised because in fact, the president too, you can categorize him as a herdsman. Who is a herdsman? A herdsman is someone that has yes, isn't it? He has cattle, isn't it? So, but the president's
he's
cattle,
a rancher. He's a rancher.
Whatever it is, but the president's cattle is in a ranch.
It's in a ranch. Absolutely. And I saw the pictures as well. And some people say that one picture tells a whole story. He has, the cows look very well fed, by the way, and they're well kept and well fed in a ranch in Daura. And I grew up partly in Daura when I was a kid, you know, so I know Daura extremely well. And he has this ranch there, and it's a good ranch. I think it sends a signal that a lot of these herdsmen need to look in the direction of ranching, because this primitive way of going up and down, you know, with your cattle, number one, they actually get underfed because the sheer energy loss of moving hundreds of kilometers.
Exercise is too much for the cattle.
Exactly. Not only that, you know, the social conflict with local farmers and so on and so forth is a big problem. And I'm sorry, the herdsman problem is there, and it is not been confronted the way it should. Some state governments have taken unilateral action to put up anti-grazing laws. Ekiti led the way, followed by Benue, and then I understand Taraba is working on one. So, you know, they are deciding that, look, they will use their sovereign prerogative as state governments to make laws, to enact laws for good order with regard to this herdsman's issue. And we need to confront it. It is a national issue. And the other aspect is that a lot of these people come from outside this country. And there's no civilized country where anybody can cross your territory. I mean, just imagine in Nancy. Let's say we are living not far from London, and then some of our herdsmen decided to walk into London with their guns and their swords. Tell me what the Queen of England will do to them.
That's a serious
matter. They will be declared enemy combatants. The sheer idea that you can walk across your territory, it doesn't matter whether your tribes people are in that part. The sheer fact that you can walk across somebody's country and come in with AK-49s and AK-47s and swords and bayonets, and then you expect people to just keep quiet.
And destroy farmlands. And destroy farmlands. And kill all through the year.
It is
sources of livelihood.
Yes. It is a crime, and it is totally unacceptable. In fact, it is a war crime, because you can't walk into somebody's territory bearing arms. That is a declaration of war. And in a declaration of war, you know, the armed forces of the country must do the necessary. You know, if they can't, then the civilians under international law reserve a right to protect themselves. That is how it works anywhere else in the world.
Doctor, give me your own assessment of leadership so far this year, 2017. Our economic leadership?
Well, you know, there was a lot of criticism, and I was one of the critics myself. And we said, you know, that we were not seeing enough action, you know, there was no economic blueprint, and a whole host of things. But I think now we are seeing some measure of resolve and commitment in terms of more prudent economic management. The Economic Recovery and Growth Plan was put in place early in the year. It is a good plan. A whole framework for implementation is being implemented with monitoring and benchmarking of key sectors. So we are seeing some action. Even within the central bank, there's been some reforms of the foreign exchange market to make it slightly more transparent. We are seeing the narrowing of the gap between the parallel market and the official. There were several informal, actually, exchange rates, up to almost a dozen of them. One for pilgrims, one for manufacturers, another one for banks, and so on. But we are seeing a gradual, you know, reduction of these multiple rates, which were simply opening up room for rent-seeking behavior. So we are seeing a reduction of that, and I commend the Monetary Authority for those actions, but we need to see much more. more activity by the economic management team, more activity on the fiscal as well as monetary side. We have overcome at least this recovery now taking place. According to the IMF, next year we might see growth even going to about 2% plus. So I think this recovery taking place, and we should be more hopeful. But like I said, it is not yet Uhuru. We need much more work, much more action.
Okay. Let me go back to the issue of security a bit, because we need to look at even security, even as we go into 2018. The federal government says that it would fight Boko Haram. That's $1 billion from the excess crude account. What do you think? Some people have kicked against it, because security in the country in the past, at least since the Jonathan days till now, has got trillions of naira.
Yes.
Be it our military, police, though the police also do tell me that of course they are not having so much funds and all of that.
Yes.
But we look at security, it has got trillions of about 5 trillion naira so far.
You know, Nancy, I visited the Northeast. I visited Maiduguri some time ago. I saw the scale of destruction. There's food scarcity bordering on famine. There are millions of IDPs. The destruction that has been done there is worth about $10 billion. So, to be honest, we don't need $1 billion. We need billions of dollars for the reconstruction of the Northeast. But I would be very uncomfortable with the current model of public spending and expenditure in the Middle East, in the Northeast. A lot of money has been going there already, and I can tell you there is nothing to show for it.
Yes.
This money simply goes there and disappears. If that is what is going to happen, then I don't think it is worth it. But we need billions of dollars, not just $1 billion for the Northeast, but this money must be structured around projects that have a clear and calculated rate of financial and economic return on investment. If we can't do that, then we should not do it. So, prudence, transparency, and seriousness in social expenditure and investments and investments on infrastructure. It's a serious business, and I think that we shouldn't play politics with it. You know, the opposition party have their own reason for saying no, don't do it, don't do it. Some in the South Side said, look, in that case, we need more money for our own projects, which is they're entitled to say so. But you know, at the end of the day, I care about people, and the poor people who have suffered so much through no fault of their own. In fact, through the negligence of we the elites and we the so-called leaders of this country. We have failed our people. We have failed our youths. And we need to understand that. And with regard to the Northeast, we need more money than just $1 billion on condition that this money is well spent, is properly accounted for. If we're not able to do that, we shouldn't even start it. That's really my honest view.
If we take a look at the 2017 budget implementation, how would you assess it? 450 billion naira released initially, earlier on in the year. Just some time ago, a few days ago, the Minister of Finance did say 750 billion naira is to be released. So if we take a look at that, about 1.2 trillion or thereabout from the 2017 budget for capital spending. What do you think? Because it seems to be just like ritual every year. And
well, to be honest, it's not all the fault of the government. Let's be fair to them. This thing was not approved until almost May, June. Is that not what happened?
Yeah.
Okay, we are now in December, so just about 5 months in which to spend the money. And it looks like an act of desperation. Recently, a few days ago, just announced you're going to release 750 billion. That's a whopping amount of money. And I worry that, I hope that it is being properly executed, it is being properly implemented. And I worry as a financier and as a former banker that you don't just release money just like that. It must go to projects that are there, that are well planned and well prepared, and that are properly executed, and that are monitored, and that are properly accounted for. So, by rushing through it like that, I have my worries, and I pray that we've learned this lesson, and that we will sort out finally budget 2018 quickly, so that it is assented to, passed and fully assented to.
Are you encouraged with what we're seeing at the National Assembly concerning the 2018 budget?
It's better, Nancy. It's better than before. There has been less rumors about budget padding. There's been less about that, which is good news. And I think that also the legislators are more anxious than ever to ensure that the budget is quickly, the estimates are quickly approved and then assented to, so that they can become law. And we can open the new year with the budget. If we do that,
is that still possible to see the passage of the budget January 2018?
Well, I hope so. I pray so. I earnestly desire it, but of course,
because this is just like the week we have for working week. Exactly, everyone will be in a celebration and Christmas mode.
Absolutely,
including the legislators.
Including the legislators.
At least they haven't said they would go on recess. They would not go on recess to attend to 2018 budget.
Yes, but I can also, well, I've said some good things about the executive. I can also say, look, they have tried. They've done better than before, definitely. And President Bukola Sarakia in the Senate and Yakubu Dogara, we are seeing more commitment to ensuring that this budget is properly assented to and in good time. I think they've woken up to their responsibilities, and we hope and pray that they will be able to sort it out, with the executive, by end of this year, so that January will start with the budget.
Okay, Doctor, just one final question before I let you go, because I have another round of interview.
Yes.
Which is, how would you like to see the economic environment in Nigeria, especially encourage the Nigerian people? Because we always quick to say, oh, foreign investors. Let's make our environment enabling to encourage foreign investors. But I'm always saying that we are so many here in Nigeria, 180 million plus people. That is, if it's verified. We haven't counted ourselves yet. We don't know how many we are. But what do you think that the government can do moving forward to make the economic environment very conducive for us to do business?
Nancy, I've been a student of world economic development, and I've studied some of the countries that have done remarkably well in terms of economic development. Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, Chile, China, UAE, and a host of them. The first and foremost task is to bring our people together. Nigerians have become a very divided people. We are more divided than ever. People tell us that, a divorce in a family doesn't take place immediately. It takes place in the spirit. Their hearts are separated even before, and then they start quarreling over small things. Why did you leave this cup here instead of here? Blah, blah, blah. I don't like your house. But they've already divorced spiritually before the actual thing manifests. As a country, I fear that, honestly, this country is already separated, because spiritually, we are no longer the same. Some of us as kids, with our Muslim brothers and friends, we are more like brothers. We go on holiday in each other's houses. We don't do that anymore. We don't eat together. We don't break bread together. That unity, whether it is Salah we celebrated, Christmas we celebrated, but here everybody keeps to himself. We have become a very divided nation, and the leaders have not done anything to bring this country back together. If you are thinking that way, another person is thinking that way, you have no way and capacity to plan a future together. It's not possible. So this is a divided country. We need to go back to the nitty-gritty of nation building. Bring this country back together, bring our people to have a sense of collective purpose and collective destiny. And there, if I plan a project, if I wanted to build a railway from Port Harcourt to Kano, through Kagoro or Kafanchan, somebody will not say, I'm trying to do it because I have a vested interest. I want to do something for my people. They will believe that they should believe that I'm doing it for the good of Nigeria. This is true of infrastructures. It is true of all aspects of economic development. If we want to invest heavily in rice production in Jigawa or Sokoto, nobody should just say, oh, it's because them. It should be because, yes, that area is comparatively well endowed in the soil and climate for that production, and it will benefit the country as a whole. If I want to set up automobile factory in Nnewi, nobody should say that, oh, I'm trying to please the Ndigo. But I should know that they have that certain skills, they have certain capacity and industrial prowess, and that we should invest in it. This is what we need to do as a country. Bring our people together, secure the common peace. The first duty of government in a civilized democracy is to enforce the civil peace so that any other thing can follow. So bring our people back together, give us a sense of one Nigeria with a common destiny, and use that to build projects that will benefit all the people, restore confidence, secure the peace. If there are criminal bandits, don't go for them just because they are herdsmen, they come from a certain ethnic group, and so on and so forth. Deal with them as criminals. If there are people in other places killing people for no reason because they are Fulanis, handle them and deal with them because of their crimes, not because of any ethnic or religious sentiments attached to it. Government should have no sentiment. Our only sentiment should be Nigeria and our love for the country.
Thank you very much, Doctor, for speaking with me this morning. All right, I've been speaking with Dr. OBADIAH MALIAFA, a former Deputy Governor at the Central Bank of Nigeria. We've been looking at the state of the Nigerian economy. Let's quickly take a break, and when we come back, my guests will be joining me, Dr. Belli, who is the Chief Executive Officer at NOI Polls, and Dr. Lumide Taiwo, Policy Analyst. We'll be looking at the opinion polls that NOI has put together in 2017, and, we'll be reviewing some of those polls. We'll be right back.